From Mamma Mia, welcome to The Spill, your daily pop culture fix. I'm Laura Brodnick.
And I'm Ksenia Likic.
And coming up on the show today, Sabrina Carpenter is Variety's new cover star. And she talks a little bit about her tour, where she is in her life now, but also addresses her biggest controversy from the last year, which we're going to get into. And also, it's such a huge day. It's kind of like Christmas and a stressful day at the same time, because the Golden Globe nominations for 2026 have come in. We're going to go through them. So many snubs, so many surprises. It's got me really stressed for the Oscars race, so we're going to get into that. But first.
So Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau have officially hard launched their relationship, even though we have seen that quite a few times before. But Katy Perry shared a bunch of carousel images on her Instagram of her in Tokyo, and it's really giving like cute couples trip, these images.
Yeah, out of all the hard launches they've done, and as you said, there have been so many. We had the whole like chronological order of their first date in Canada, every restaurant they went to, the park they went to, the path they walked the dog on, everything they ordered, and then the yacht photos, which again weren't them putting them out where they were like kissing on top of the yacht, but they were in a paparazzi area, so they obviously were happy for that to be like their official paparazzi debut. And then walking out of Crazy Horse hand in hand on her birthday. That was again a bit chicer, under the radar, and I feel like they've been building up to an Instagram hard launch, which for elder millennials is the most intense thing you can do. Like, it's like having a ring.
It is, and it's also because I love how she put it as the second image. So the first image is like a little dancing figurine that's, you know, that you find in all the streets of Tokyo. And then the second image is them. It's just a very cute, classic couples shot. Because I don't know about you, but I feel like so many celeb Instagram feeds nowadays are so curated. It's so like the images of all these official photos that they've taken from, you know, magazines or on tour or whatever. And this just feels really like organic and authentic.
Yeah, I do feel, I mean, the placement of that photo, I can only imagine she was in the group chat with her friends, going back and forth of where that should be, because traditionally you put it last.
Yeah.
If you're doing a bit of a hard launch via an Instagram dump, you do it last. Or if you want to be a little bit tricky, like a Sophie Turner, you put a sort of obscured image, but you put it about fifth in, like, with lots of group pictures. The art of the Instagram launches, like, people could write books, and I'm sure they will, about how to do it, which ones are the most successful. To put it second is a real statement.
It is, and I actually love how you said traditionally, like, this has been around for such a long period of time.
I mean, we're
like
over 10 years of Instagram now.
Know,
so
crazy,
I feel like it is a thing.
it?
I feel like we've been through so many different iterations of how you launch a relationship on Instagram. And again, she's almost gone like a traditional route. Like, she's a traditional girl just putting up a photo as the second one, and not just doing like his elbow or something.
Well, we didn't used to have like carousel images. Like, you would only ever put one photo.
Yeah, you had to commit to a photo, so that was a whole thing. But also I think people shared a lot more then and were a bit more kind of straightforward of like, here's my partner, even celebs, whereas now it's all about like not doing a long caption, which I'm guilty of because I'm not cool, or like not putting like a fully focused photo, or like not having the person's face in it.
Yes, I love that. But then there's also a really cute video of them eating sushi in black and white, and all of the comments on that are basically just saying it's really cute, and they're calling him True Daddy.
Oh, I mean, I guess, yeah. I guess he's always had that like hot dad vibe. That was his, I guess that like carried him through his prime ministership and has now like got him a whole fan base.
Yeah, so the one that's been like a tiny little controversy of this trip to Japan. So basically Justin Trudeau, as we all know, was the Canadian Prime Minister. He finished up this year, but when he was in Japan, he went to this like diplomatic visit, and Katy Perry is there with these two diplomats, and Justin's the one who posted the photo, and Katy's standing there, and everyone's like, oh my God, what's she wearing? She's wearing like a really short little mini skirt. And I was like, she's a pop star. She's not a politician's wife here. She is a pop star, and he is following her.
And she's in the middle of her own like world tour at the moment. And so with her, like, you know, all the press looks she has for that and the costumes and stuff, it would be so weird if she turned up to that event in like a full woolen kind of suit, or was trying to be like a Jackie O or something like that. Like, it would look like she was wearing a costume then.
Yeah, she's wearing stockings. That's fine.
I
think
huge
it's
for her.
fine. The other comparison people are making is that back around New Year's in 2024, Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom were with each other in Japan, and some very keen people on the internet have assumed or deduced that these two restaurants are the same restaurant, the same sushi restaurant. And they're now comparing the two images. And it's kind of wild to me that just December last year, Orlando and Katy were like a happy little couple. And now she's got this whole new relationship with True Daddy. But look, they look very happy. People are excited to see them together. I'm really looking forward to the next iteration of Katy Perry and True Daddy.
So Sabrina Carpenter is Variety's new cover star, and the title of the story is Sabrina Carpenter's Wild Year of Man's Best Friend, Taylor Swift, and Growing Up. And then there's like a little subheading that says, it's not my fault I got a job when I was 12 and you won't let me evolve, which I feel is a really great and important quote from her that I'm surprised she's not wearing on a T-shirt at this stage.
It is so valid and something that happens to so many of our child stars, Disney stars. They all say the same thing. You know, even like Millie Bobby Brown has said it recently. She's like, you guys knew me when I was a kid. I'm now an adult. Like let me grow up.
Yeah, which I do. I'm sure it is always really tiring for child stars to have to go through this whole rigmarole every time they evolve into something else, especially from being a Disney sort of like child star and like being on like those cutesy comedies and all that sort of stuff like Sabrina Carpenter was. It's like it's very regimented behind the scenes of how a child star like that has to look, how they have to behave, how they have to speak. And so as she's evolved into this like overly sexy, playful baby doll kind of persona that she has on stage, it's such a huge jump. I'm sure that's like hard to address. I think it's like not about putting it on individual people like a Millie Bobby Brown or or Sabrina Carpenter or that sort of thing. It's more so that like when we see this evolution from child star to pop star, it only ever goes one way. It's like they're really cute and the next second they're like really over-sexualized. And even with Millie Bobby Brown, like the backlash she's got for like the hair extensions, the makeup she was wearing and the gown she chose. And so it's just interesting that you never see them go kind of the other way. I wonder if they feel like they have to, in terms of like have to break out of that child star persona if they have to go so adult, like go so quickly the other way. So there's no way to be pulled back into that area.
My sense is that there would be this feeling of I want people to see me in a different light, and you can't make it a really subtle change. You've kind of got to go big or go home. I mean, it can go really wrong. I think about like Jojo Siwa, who went from like, you know, bows on top of her head.
At least she did something different. Like
did she really do something different?
I think she did from a child star, because the thing is, if she had followed the child star to pop star playbook, she would have come out overtly sexual. Like she would have come out in like a tiny mini dress, like had her boobs out, which again she's allowed to do, she's an adult, really over sexualized makeup, you know, posing topless in magazines. Like she could have gone that way, and that's like which is wild to think, the traditional child star to pop star or actress like kind of route that they take. Instead she still went quirky and over the top, like the whole Kiss inspired black outfit. Like it was a bit more adult than the rainbow bows. But it wasn't, to me, like it didn't come across as like overtly sexual, like I'm trying to shock us. She tried to shock us by going like I don't even know if there's a word for it, like really kind of like almost like an anime character.
Yeah. I mean, the film clip though, she was like making out with, you know, a woman on the beach, and she was like, I think that was her way of kind of trying to show her
which
sexuality.
Again has kind of always been her brand. I actually think that her Betty Davis eyes is her like I'm a woman now kind of thing, because in that she's a bit more old Hollywood. I know she's like cosplaying that character, but she's a bit more like old Hollywood, like classic hair, red lip, like, you know, very kind of like adult looking. I think that was more like the kind of more sexualized way. But yeah, I do think that's something that Sabrina Carpenter is really trying to kind of get across in this profile.
I think it's also really interesting with Sabrina Carpenter, and you and I can't relate to this, but she's such a small woman. Like she's only 5 foot. She's really petite. She references in this interview a lot how people like see this like little girly. Like, and if for some reason, like people are constantly referencing her height, it is such a huge part of her identity, and it does like infantilize her a little bit. Can't relate. I've never like felt like this like little like petite dolly thing ever.
Yeah. It's something you hear from short women a lot, whereas they say like, oh, it's really annoying when people pat my head or pick me up. And I'm like, who's picking you up? But like it happens.
Yeah. I've heard that from my friends too. Like 2 of my best friends are 5 foot and I'm like, they get that all the time. Like people are always trying to pick me up.
The urge to pick up a short woman has never crossed my mind. Like I would never see, and again, we've got a lot of tiny women in this office and I've never once had the urge to pick one of them up. Like you can resist it.
I do have to say though, this office is very, very tall.
We are now. We've evolved we got rid of all the short women and now we've just brought in tall women.
It's
and
like
that's been a request from me.
Amazon women everywhere.
It's so nice, I know.
It's really lovely. Sorry, Mon.
Yeah, producer's really short. I loved how in this article, Sabrina and the journalist bond over being short, and then the journalist is trying to think of her own height, and she was like, oh, and I'm like an extra inch, like that maybe sounds silly to say, and Sabrina's like, no girl, like every bit counts, you add that on.
Yeah, and then they talked about it being a dick joke, which I thought was quite cute.
Yes.
Which, again, leans into that. One of the things the interviewer did ask was about the controversy on the Man's Best Friend album cover, which we did speak about earlier on in the year. And she was talking about how it people were really, really shocked by it. And she was almost a bit confused about it. But I love the way that she responds to it because I think it's a very, very clever way to address these sorts of controversial things. So she says, it meant one thing to me and 100 things to other people. And I was looking at it and going, that's valid. Mine's valid. What's for dinner? Not to bypass the weight that it did carry for some people I saw. And it was like, that's a great point. It wasn't the point I was trying to make. She's kind of really acknowledging what other people are thinking, understanding it and saying, yep, that's valid. It just strikes me as the difference between the way Sabrina has answered a question like that versus like someone like Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah. I mean, Sydney Sweeney has 100% got a new PR team working around her because she's dramatically changed her stance on things. I mean, dramatically. She's changed her stance on things recently and kind of is addressing a few things like the jeans campaign that she hasn't before. Yeah, I thought this was interesting. I mean, the thing is, I guess an easier way for Sabrina Carpenter to address this is like it was a scandal, but it was a pop star scandal.
Yeah.
Like no one was actually I know some people were upset and she has addressed that there was this element of like abusive control against women. And if you're not sure of the photo we're talking about, it was the Man's Best Friend, the cover for it. And the photo was Sabrina Carpenter down on her hands and knees looking all sexy and cute and short with like a nondescript man's hand reaching out the side and yanking her hair up. And people were upset because they thought it was signaling like violence against women or women being treated badly. And then some people were like, no, like it's a play on her whole sexy persona. And then there was this whole conspiracy, which I'm still sad didn't come true, that the full cover was going to come out because this was pre-released before the full album came out, that it was going to show that it was like her hand like pulling her own hair and kind of like she's the one in control kind of thing. But that didn't materialize. It was just the original photo. And in this article, when she's talking about it, she was saying it was actually meant to show that you can be in control. So she's the pop star, but there's someone else in control of her. And she's also saying that like she was meant to be looking into the camera with this expression that's meant to be like a little bit of kind of intrigue, but also pleasure, but also to show that she was stressed. So it was meant to be conveying all these different emotions. The one emotion she said was like, it was never about degrading women, and that's not what she wanted people to take away from it.
Yeah, and to be honest, I never looked at that image and thought that it was her like being a submissive woman and encouraging, violence against women. I never saw that when I saw the image. Honestly, as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, yeah, she's doing a play on the way that women can feel like controlled in a relationship, or the things that, the way that men or a new relationship can play on your emotions. And I kind of understood that. But, everyone has a different interpretation of it and you've got to kind of lean into it.
Yeah. And in this piece, when the journalist asked her, but what about the other photos you took? Because obviously she released more promo images. And I think she was trying to get the story of like, were you trying to backtrack? Were you trying to, push the scandal away? And Sabrina Carpenter, and this is so indicative of the way she talks, she was like, girl, I just wanted to take some more pictures. And I was like, yeah, sometimes it really is that simple that she just wanted to take more pictures.
And honestly, the pictures, there's something about her aesthetic that's just so adorable to me, but in like this really sexy way, which is obviously her whole persona.
Yeah.
But she's wearing, on the cover of the image, she's wearing this little like prairie handkerchief thing around her neck, like a doily kind of fabric. And she's got this like, who, me? look on her face. And I'm like, I just love that.
The sexy baby thing is a real, like, and I say this all the time, the marketing for her kind of rebrand, because the thing is she's been trying to be a pop star. She was successful, but she's really was trying to be like a mainstream huge pop star for over 7 years. And probably longer than that around, like, you know, but when she says like, I've been toiling away for over 7 years, that's kind of the number she often puts on it. And then she's had this huge breakout year. And a lot of that is to do with branding, which really could have fallen flat because it comes across as so old school and so kind of overtly sexual. But the thing is, she's able to put this beautiful kind of like playfulness and a reverence through it that doesn't feel like an act, like the way she talks and the whole shtick that she has on stage when she opens her tour with like the whole being in the bathtub and running across with the towel and like not being able to like get the mic down, and she's like, I'm so tiny, I don't know what to do. You know, because you know, if you're short you got to use it. That's why I don't begrudge her that. But it's all these little things, like the sexiness wouldn't work unless the comedy side of it works. She's like an old school kind of like a school sitcom like Lucille Ball almost.
It's very
kind of
Lucille Ball. I really do get that sense of this kind of 1950s quirky, sexy Lucille Ball thing from her. 100%. It's really interesting because as part of this cover, she was the 2025 Variety hit maker, and they had, you know, a brunch out in LA, and she accepted her award. And one of the things she said, she's like, the easiest way to write a bad song is to try to write a hit. And she's referencing the early years of her career when people were, you know, the studio were really forcing her to try and write these big hits. Yeah. And she talks to being really creatively stifled in that sort of era of her career. And then the other thing she says, and I think this is part of this cheekiness that she has, is like you've got to call men stupid in as many ways as you can.
Yeah, love that from her. She's really leading the charge on that. Yeah, I loved that speech. I almost find the speech that she gave more, not that the Variety cover wasn't interesting, and obviously it kind of like, you know, some of it took part at the concert with like how women perceive her, and like it's so interesting too that as much as she's like overly sexual and like this kind of like rough and tumble sex pinup girl, like her fandom really is women, and women love her for that. Like Sabrina Carpenter is for the girls, not the boys.
Absolutely.
Which I really love, because again, if she didn't have that kind of smart playfulness, like she would only really be appealing to men, but it's the girls who like find something in her that they feel like kind of champions them, which is such a hard line to walk. But I did love her speech at Variety where she was talking about just the creative process, which I feel is something that we never assign to talking about Sabrina Carpenter. That's usually like, that's a Taylor Swift or a Gracie Abrams or a Chappell Roan. And when she was saying like, if you sit down and you try and write something and you're thinking about what the critics will say and you're thinking about what people will say about this and you're trying to write like what line will people like pull out of this that will be the hit, what will they play on radio stations, you instantly just fail. And I was like, oh, that's good advice.
I think it's really interesting that you mentioned Taylor Swift, because obviously she's, you know, she was on the Taylor Swift album. And, you know, she talks a little bit about working with her and having a great vibe with her. What I do find interesting is how her cheeky, funny, little quirky lines that she writes in her music do seem to land a little bit better than, for example, would in the Taylor Swift album. If you look at the public reaction to both of those songs, which is effectively the same thing, they're doing these cheeky things. Why didn't it work as well for Taylor Swift in the public as it did for Sabrina? Is it because Sabrina has more of that vibe already?
Yeah, I think that was such an interesting thing when Taylor Swift's like latest album came out and everyone was dissecting it, is that Wood was the one they pulled out that felt like it shouldn't have belonged there, even though she has written songs like that before, maybe with not exactly the same lyrics, but I didn't feel like it was this huge departure. But that was the conversation at the time, is that everyone thought that she was trying to tap into what Sabrina Carpenter had done, and it was almost like this kind of like elder pop star, even though she's only like 35, this elder pop star kind of leeching onto this younger pop star and trying to pull her fandom over. I think probably the simpler answer is that Taylor Swift, like everyone else, is just very inspired by people around her. I know we don't assign that to her because she's meant to be in a league of her own, but I do think that she's, as much as other stars are, or just people, very kind of swayed by the music she listens to and the music that she hears people around her singing. And she probably is also in a different place in her life being in love, writing a happier album. So I don't think it was like she was copying Sabrina Carpenter, but I do.
No, I don't think she was either. It was more about, for me, it was just more interesting to see the reception
it didn't land
to both.
as well, yeah.
And because if you, in isolation, they're the same sort of thing. It's talking about the same thing. It's just women enjoying sex and women, playing, and that's the fun of it. It's supposed to be funny.
I think with Life of a Showgirl, there was maybe just there was a lot happening.
Yeah.
Because you had songs like about cancelled friends, you had songs about being in love, you had songs about like feuds with Charlie XCX and stuff. And so I think maybe if that had been like the core through the whole album, maybe, but because it was kind of just in there and then like the other songs quite tonally different, it felt like a jump.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think people thought it was gimmicky maybe too, just like a few of the lines. Again, I don't think I think that, but I think, it was, I think their collaboration made her a bigger target for people to think that she was trying to like be Sabrina Carpenter.
I am so obsessed with her at the moment. This year she has been my standout celeb and pop star. Like I eat up everything she does.
Yeah, I actually think frothy pop, I know people think it's like a bit throwaway and stuff, but I think it's like to come up with a really good,
she's clever,
frothy pop song that really gets into your life that you want to listen to on repeat can be really hard. And to have all these little gimmicky things, to have them land in the correct way is also really difficult. So I think that she actually like, as much as she's got all like the money and stuff and everything, so she's like being rewarded in that way. But I think like being like in the mix for like the Grammys and being a bit more critically acclaimed and having these sellout stadium tours has been a bit more. Again, she's like I've been working for years, and for years she put out albums, no one listened. She put out more albums, no one listened. Everyone just saw her as this kind of like child star who was trying to be a pop star, and no one saw her as someone who could even sing. Like that's crazy. It's just like we always think everyone's an overnight success, but there's just really no overnight success. People don't really exist.
So Jack Antonoff did introduce her at this particular award, and he said she's just really smart.
Yeah, and I believe that.
That at its core is what we should be taking away from Sabrina Carpenter. She knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah, she's a smart gal. Okay, so the Golden Globe nominations for 2026 have been announced. So we have one standout movie already, which I was kind of hoping there would be maybe a bit more push and pull between the movies this year, because we are shaping up to sort of know who we're going to win some of the Oscar categories. So for a surprise to no one, One Battle After Another leads the nominations. So it has 9 nominations, including Best Picture, Director, and Screenwriter. Then we have Sentimental Value. Again, no surprises there. A lot of these movies have been tailored for the Oscars race, so no surprise they're in the mix. It has 8 nominations, followed by, and this is what I'm excited about, Sinners with 7 nominations because of its vampire nature, often something that the Oscars would sort of push out of the way. Golden Globes, they're a bit more footloose and fancy free, so they will let them in the mix, I think.
It's kind of like the fun cousin. This is the one that everybody enjoys. And it's really the first awards show of the season. It is usually gives you a bit of an insight into what's going to happen for the rest of awards season. Yes. And often they say, like, if you win the Golden Globe, you're kind of definitely in the running for an Oscar. There's obviously differences between the two award shows, but it really is a great little tester of what's going to happen.
Yes, so the Golden Globes, it's also the only big award show where you have the film people and the TV people together in one room, which is always a fun time. And yeah, they're kind of like, a lot of the industry kind of looks on them as like, it's like, oh, like your award show has gotten huge, but it doesn't mean as much. Obviously they had that huge revamp after being cancelled a couple of years ago with like allegations of money and favors trading hands in terms of nominations. The Golden Globe people are also known to just like hanging out with celebrities, which again, relatable. Sometimes they just nominate people who don't deserve to be nominated because they want to have them in the room and have a drink with them.
So the other thing about the big difference between the Golden Globes and the Oscars, and this may seem minor, but it does attribute to the fun aspect of it. So the Golden Globes is a dinner. So they actually sit down at tables and they're allowed to drink and eat while the awards show is happening. The Oscars is a theatre setup. So the general consensus among most of these celebrities is the Golden Globes are way more fun because you can actually like hang out and you like run to the bathrooms and everyone's like running around. And it was the one awards show that I was able to go to when I was working at E. I went, and because NBC Universal were at that time airing the award shows. And so I was able to stand there and watch it. And it is crazy. Crazy.
I know. I almost feel like now that people are so worried about getting cancelled and stuff that they're not as loose as they used to be. I'm like, bring back the looser tables. That's what I want to see. So yes, Sinners with 7 nominations, Hamnet with 6. I've only seen Hamnet this week.
Yes.
Incredible. Now I want it to win everything. Frankenstein is in the mix. Netflix made sure of that. And Wicked for Good has 5 nominations. Wicked for Good not being nominated in the movie category, even though it has got nominations for actors and songs, which has, I think, hurt its chances a little bit, but we'll get to that as we talk more about the movie section later. In the TV category, kind of quite expected. The White Lotus is topped with 6 nominations. And like, I think everyone who's in there is quite deserved. I feel a bit bad for Leslie Bibb kind of missing. I feel like just because that her section is quite stacked that she keeps getting knocked out. Adolescence was also up there with 5 nominations. I think that'll have a really strong night, especially coming off the Emmys where like all of those speeches just blew everyone out of the water. Only Murders in the Building.
I was really surprised at this. I'm a big Only Murders in the Building fan. I really enjoy the show. I think it's quirky, it's fun. Steve Martin and Martin Short are just such a dynamic duo. Selena Gomez has been nominated in the actor category as well. And I do find it quite interesting because now we're in the season, I think we're in season 5 now of Only Murders in the Building, and it has become quite tropey. There is a very, it's very formulaic. This season is very formulaic. It is still very enjoyable, but I was very surprised to see so many nominations for it. Something else I was quite surprised to see as part of that particular category is in the best male actor in the comedy or musical segment, we've got Adam Brody, Nobody Wants This, Steve Martin, Glenn Powell, Chad Powers.
That was so shocking to me. Again, I think the Globes just want to hang out with Glenn Powell. And again, that's fair.
Flawed. Seth Rogen in the studio, valid. Martin Short, Only Murders in the Building. Jeremy Allen White, The Bear. Now, I know The Bear is in this category but it's always one that's confused me. I don't think The Bear is a comedy or a musical.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's another way to have this conversation. Like every year, everyone has this conversation and they make the jokes. So it's to do with the timing, and also you can submit yourself to a category. Like you choose where to submit.
Yeah, I know. I know we have this every year, but I just look at that category and I'm like, well, I think Seth Rogen's probably going to win for that.
I think so, especially because Hollywood love movies and TV shows about Hollywood. Even though the studio really skewers the industry and kind of makes fun of it in a way, in another way it is kind of like a bit of a love letter to Hollywood. And there is a whole episode about the Golden Globes in that show. So even though there were a few people from the studio like Catherine Hahn who was snubbed from acting categories, which is just so crazy, I think they'll probably have another big run there. Also Severance coming in with 4 nominations, and I think it'll do quite well, especially because we're not going to see any more Severance until 2027. They're not even because they're not even filming. They're not even starting to film the next season of Severance until mid next year, which means it'll need like 6 months production. So it's well over 2 years away. So it's going to be out of the awards race for a long time. So I think if they want to give Severance some love, it has to be now. Who knows what will be happening in 2 years' time.
I do love as well Sarah Snook in All Her Fault. Wasn't that one of your weekend watch recommendations?
Yeah, she's really great in that. I feel like she's got I mean, we just know that the Golden Globes love also giving Sarah Snook awards, which I'm okay with. So.
I'm fine with that. I will give her all the awards. I love her. I think she's so incredibly talented. Another one that I was surprised at was Natasha Lyonne in Poker Face.
It's interesting too because she's leaving that show. And so, again, if they want to give her an award for the 2 seasons that she was in, it kind of has to be now. The TV one is wild. I guess there's just so much TV to look at. And so it's kind of interesting. There's shows like, you know, White Lotus and The Bear and stuff and Only Murders, the shows that are always in the mix and kind of just plod along through every award season. I think it's kind of more interesting to look at the newcomers that they're really lifting up because they're the ones that are going to sort of bring them back into people's consciousness. So All Her Fault, that's done really well. The Beast in Me, I think that's got a really good push. Pluribus,
yeah. Another really, weekend. Well, you guys are right, got your finger on the pulse pop culture.
That is That is our job.
It is the job. The Pit also has had quite a few noms.
Yeah, I guess a few surprises with acting, but it might take. Oh, actually, I don't know if it's going to come in as heavy this time with some of the other big buzzy shows. A lot of really big shows completely shut out, which I was really surprised by. Alien Earth, again, sometimes those sci-fi shows don't get nominated, but this one was one that like it was so expensive to make. It's quite critically acclaimed. It was kind of set up to be this next kind of like Game of Thrones thing, and even though it's successful, it hasn't gone down that path, and I think not getting any awards, any acting awards, has really hurt its chances. The Hunting Wives, again, that is like catnip to the Golden Globes. They wouldn't have had those sexy women up on stage, especially because it's got a second season. The Paper, so that's the spin-off series of The Office, which came out so bright and fast, and everyone was talking about it, and everyone's like, this is the comedy of the year, it's the most beloved comedy, and it's such a good show if anyone hasn't watched it, but it has not really found that critical acclaim. It's really fallen off a cliff there.
There is a massive challenge though with television, and I think we all know this, the amount of stuff that is coming out. It is so high volume and things are churned out very, very quickly. It's really easy to forget one and to get lost in the amount of really, really incredible shows.
That's the thing. There's so many people have been left out, as we said, like some of the studios. So Ike Barinholtz, Chase Sue Wonders, that was a huge kind of miss for me. Dakota Fanning, For All Her Fault. I thought she would really be up in the mix with how critically acclaimed that show is and how successful she is. Also, The Morning Show, Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon. You'd think that just like their names alone and the fact that they're making this critically acclaimed TV show would really put them in the mix.
I feel as though because it had such a strong start, it has dropped off a little bit. Kind of the reverse of Only Murders. I mean, I know Only Murders has been quite popular, but I feel like The Morning Show, and this is me as a viewer of The Morning Show, I loved season 1 and season 2. Like I really enjoyed it to start with. It's kind of lost me.
Yeah, it's interesting with the star power. And again, it is so critically acclaimed. Like so many critics who, I know this is not who critics are voting for, and it's like a different metric, but it's also like their movie star status would normally for the Golden Globes get them in the room. One that I quite liked was Megan Fahey for Sirens. Sirens, not a great show. She's just really great in it.
It was a funny show because
it's very forgettable.
It is forgettable. It's in that same White Lotus, Big Little Lies, like it's in that same genre.
Yeah. I think that's
really
more of
liked her in it.
Yeah, I think it's more a career nom for her.
Yeah.
In terms of like, we just love her as an actress. We like everything she's in. She was kind of the standout part of that show. So yeah, we'll drop her in there.
Should we move on to movies? We can start with Wicked. Should we start with Wicked?
Yeah, Wicked, an interesting one. So John and Chu shut out of the director's category. Wicked out of the best musical comedy category as a movie, which is quite huge. I know a lot of people are saying today that if you saw the movie, then you would understand why. And I know a lot of people didn't like it as much, but it is still one of the biggest movies of the year. So for it not to be nominated here, again, different people vote in the Oscars. I do think it will sneak through the Oscars, but it has quite hurt its chances.
Both original songs made it in to the nominations. So, which actually did surprise me a little bit. Both of them. So the other
I don't know if both of them are going to make it through to the Oscars, to be honest. I think Girl in the Bubble will make it through maybe.
I think in the best original song category, I do think that we're also going to have another K-pop Demon Hunters sweep on that particular category.
I would be okay with them to win that category. That's a great song.
I think we've said this before, but I think it's a wonderful, wonderful song. Yeah. I think the Miley Cyrus one is still a little bit too new to make that impact. But then, Wicked, I think, we've still got Cynthia and Ariana getting nominated in their respective categories.
Yeah, Ariana might win. I'm actually, to be honest, getting a little worried for Cynthia Erivo's Oscar chances. And the Golden Globes will be really make or break for her. She wasn't nominated in the Critics Awards, which is quite a huge snub. Golden Globes, she actually made history as the first Black woman to earn 2 lead actress nominations in the comedy category, like in that back-to-back. So like that is huge. So she's making history there. it's getting a little bit dicey if she's going to get in now to the Best Actress Oscar race. And the thing is, she is someone who almost really needs to win this Golden Globe to cement her chances. Again, it's different voting bodies, but it's really important to remember that the Golden Globes airs just before the Oscar ballots open to be voted in. So if you win a Golden Globe and you get up on stage and you knock it out of the park with your speech and you're at front of mind, like Demi Moore did last year, she got up, she won the Golden Globe, she got up on stage, she gave an incredible speech about her career in the industry, and that propelled her to the front. And she didn't end up winning, but that propelled her to the front of the Oscars race. And I think Cynthia Erivo is like kind of falling out of people's minds a bit. So a win for her and a good speech would really put her over the line, I think, because I am getting a little bit worried about her chances. I don't know if she's sort of how she's gonna go in the actual category, because the other people she's against, so Best Performance by an Actress in a Musical or Comedy, Rose Byrne, If I Had Legs I'd Kick You. I think she's probably going to get an Oscar nom too. Like, she's really hard to beat this year. Kate Hudson, Song Sung Blue, I think, again, she's kind of like hit or miss. Chase Infinity, one battle after another. Yeah. I think she's the one to beat, to be honest.
Me too. Chase Infinity, and particularly because one battle after another has really swept a lot of the categories. It has been so critically acclaimed. And then, we've obviously got Emma Stone in Begonia, which has been really, I think there's been a huge push for Emma Stone. And and
again, she's a double Oscar winner. You can never really count her out. I think this year though, Rose Byrne and Chase Infinity are going to be the ones to kind of move things around there. And Emma Stone I think she'll be nominated for everything, but I don't think she's going to have a big win. And then you've also got Amanda Seyfried for The Testaments of Anne Lee, which, again, I don't think that's going to be the hugest awards contender there. But again, just really pushing her into the mix.
Now, we did get a nomination for The Rock. Dwayne The Rock Johnson got his nomination, which we knew he was hunting for. And I'm actually just so happy for him.
Yeah, I mean, all he wanted with that movie was some critical acclaim. So again, I don't think he's going to make it to the Oscars, but I'm sure he'll be happy to be in the room at the Golden Globes. We've also got Joel Edgerton, Train Dreams, Oscar Isaac for Frankenstein, Michael B. Jordan for Sinners, which he is the one. It's not just because I think he's hot, although that hotness should be rewarded too. I always say that. He's incredible in that role. He plays two lead characters. Again, if it wasn't for the vampire thing, he would be winning an Oscar. Jeremy Allen White for Springsteen. To me, that's nomination doesn't deserve to be there. Springsteen wasn't great and it didn't really get any traction.
Yeah, it's not really doing anything for me. But I would say we're probably looking at Michael B. Jordan for that category.
Yeah, whether it takes him to the Oscars will be something else to sort of see about. Okay, Best Actress by a Female Actor Drama. This is where things get very, very intense, because Tessa Thompson for Hedda we've got in there, which I was really excited about because she's great in that. Eva Victor for Sorry Baby. I think she was sort of like a bit of a surprise swing in there that people are excited about. Julia Roberts for After the Hunt. She's okay in that. That movie didn't really get a lot of traction.
I would say, because if you look at this category, this is our big serious category. Something I've really noticed is how many smaller actors have been pushed into these really strong categories.
Yeah.
Because if you look at this, we've got Jessie Buckley, Jennifer Lawrence, obviously very, very famous, Renata Reinsve, Julia Roberts, famous, Tessa Thompson, and Eva Victor. Only two people in that category, I would say, are really massive A-listers.
Yeah, so that's interesting because Jennifer Lawrence, Die My Love. I think that when that movie came out, there was a big kind of push that she would really be in the Oscars race. Potentially, she could win the Golden Globe. I think her and Rose Byrne, just because they're both in movies about like the trauma of motherhood, and like God forbid we have two movies about that in the Oscars race. The men won't like that. I think Rose Byrne will kind of edge her out. I've got to say, Jessie Buckley in Hamnet, for me, is the standout winner. Like, she has to win the Oscar for that.
So you just saw that this week. I saw, this has been very, very hyped up. Definitely one of our picks to sort of watch over this Christmas period. What is it about her performance that was so
just
riveting?
So like raw and emotional and just like physical and just everything about it. And I know people will talk about Paul Mescal and he was good in it too, but like it's her movie and her performance carries it through. And I think she's been someone who should have, as I've said before, should have won an Oscar before this because she's had a lot of standout roles. But the thing is, you could wipe that all away, and Hamnet is just this incredible like story of like love and grief, and you just see this whole kind of gambit of emotions that she goes through, and the whole like emotional crux of the end of the movie is literally on her face, just the camera on her face, and her face does all the work to take you through all these different emotions and tell you how the story ends. And I was like, God, that's hard. God, that's hard to tell an entire story, and like to have like movies usually have this huge emotional ending that's special effects or like a plot twist and stuff, and to have the movie center on the emotion of a woman's face and have that be like the big hook, out of this world. I think just give her the Oscar now.
So Jacob Elordi has been nominated twice.
Oh, he's be laughing that, yeah.
I love that for him. I know he's like a pretty big star, but I still always get really excited when one of our own gets up there. And obviously he did very, very well in Frankenstein. And then he was also nominated in a limited series, The Narrow Road to the Deep North.
He's really good in that. I would actually be happy for him. I would be more happy for that series as a whole to win more awards, but I think he's stronger than Frankenstein, even though he was really good in that. The drama category, kind of, that's Frankenstein is nominated in that, so that's a Netflix production. Hamnet is in there. It Was Just an Accident, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, and Sinners. It'll be interesting how that category swings, but I do think, just from what I've seen, Hamnet, I guess, is going to be the one. But also, I mean, maybe Sinners, just because it's a different voting category to the Oscars and they're a bit more serious. And then musical or comedy, we've got Blue Moon, Begonia, Marty Supreme. Marty Supreme I saw recently too. It's coming out the end of January in Australia, I think. Holy hell, that movie is a absolutely wild ride. But Gwyneth Paltrow snubbed. That's another big one. Yeah. Jennifer Lopez and Gwyneth Paltrow, our two comeback gals, snubbed.
Poor Jennifer Lopez.
What will they do?
Do you know what? J-Lo was probably really hoping for a Demi Moore arc.
Yeah, Marty Supreme, incredible. I think that'll be a really strong awards contender. And then also in that category, we've got No Other Choice, Nouvelle Vague, and of course, One Battle After Another, which again is probably going to sweep a lot of categories.
Yeah, so there's two new categories. One of them is a podcast category, but the other one is cinematic and box office achievement. This category, I think, is probably more to pander to Hollywood's need for look how well you've done selling numbers. Now, Avatar Fire and Ash is nominated in this category and it has not been released yet.
Yeah, but I think that's the pre-box office numbers, pre-ticket sales and everything will really, because it's going to be a bit of a like Wicked could take it out, but also Zootopia 2's in the mix. Like, I
mean, K-pop Demon Hunters got nominated in there too.
That's always an interesting one. That's just a way to get all the big stars there who weren't nominated for the critical awards.
Yeah.
And so this is the third year of it, I think. So Barbie won it the first year, Wicked won it last year. So it'll be kind of interesting. We'll kind of know beforehand because it's numbers based.
Yeah.
But yeah, the podcast awards, this is the first year they've had a Golden Globe for Best Podcast, which is wild.
Okay, so let me just tell you the nominations in this category and we can kind of unpack it a bit, because one, I found it strange to do podcasts in it because this is television and film. I understand podcast is a big medium and, people should be honoured for it and the good work that's been done. So, Best Podcast, Armchair Expert with Dak Shepard, Call Her Daddy, Good Hang with Amy Poehler, The Mel Robbins Podcast, Smart List, and Up First from NPR. Those are all just basically celebrity interview ones.
Yeah, and look, the podcast one has been really contentious. A lot of people are up in arms today because podcasts like the Joe Rogan Experience is not nominated, and there's a few other like really big, more political-based shows, especially some that lean a bit more to like the right side of politics.
Yeah.
On that, I would say yes, there is like a genre of podcast that's obviously not in there, but this is not a voting platform for numbers. It is like, movies and TV shows, like what we like and what we don't like. It's subjective. Like it's a group of people who are deciding what they like to watch. Podcasts are a little bit the same. It's a group of people who are voting for the podcast they like. And yes, in this case, they've gone for podcasts that are very celebrity based. They're people who were really big in the entertainment industry for acting and now have gone more into podcasting. And I think it is a way just to kind of meet the fans where they are. At the same time, I also agree that it's unnecessary.
It's a really unnecessary category. It does feel like a little bit like, again, pandering to just celebrities who want to get honoured. I mean, I really like Smartless as a podcast. I think it's great. I think they're a great trio. Good Hang with Amy Poehler, I think, is good. But I just feel like, one, I don't think the category should be in there at all. I think there's like, if we're going to start honouring podcasts, let's move it to something different. I don't think it belongs at the Golden Globes. And I would say podcast works more at the Grammys.
Yeah, as a listening experience rather than a more of a TV kind of film thing. I do think Amy Poehler is probably going to take it out, which is kind of interesting. She's got such a long history with the Golden Globes. She's so beloved. All the Smartless guys. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It does feel like it's kind of swinging the focus, but also podcasts are the biggest growing entertainment section in the world. So I think if they're trying to be relevant, they're trying to lean into that.
Okay, so this is the start of the campaign to get The Spill nominated for next year.
Yes, I just want to go and be at the party. I don't have to be nominated. So the Golden Globes are going to air Sunday, Jan 11th. So we've got a huge build up. We'll be back from our holidays then, like ready and raring to go. It'll be our first big award show of the year. Can't wait. Very excited.